Hi everyone, it's Az here from HeelvsBabyface. When it comes to casting in TV and movies, let's just say Hollywood have been playing fast and loose when it comes to the source material that they've been using. We've seen a lot of race changes, gender changes, and all that sort of business. Whether or not you agree with it, disagree with it, we'll get to the hypocrisy of it very soon. But a couple of years back, Channel 5 in the UK decided to do an historical piece about the events leading up to the execution of Anne Boleyn, one of the wives of Henry VIII, who was actually beheaded. However, there was a massive change that they decided to do with the casting. Anne Boleyn, who was a white woman with, I think, brownish hair, was changed to a black woman. When it comes to fiction, some will argue that the people creating the TV show or the movie have more creative freedom, artistic license to play around with the source material. Others will vehemently argue against that. What I think personally is that creative freedom or artistic license in recent times has easily given way to an ideological one. Instead of artistic decisions being made or creative decisions being made, ideological ones are. We're seeing male characters pushed out and replaced by female characters. We're seeing race changes being put in place to get rid of white characters in order to be more inclusive and diverse. All those great buzzwords which we like to hear. But when it comes to history, these things are set in stone. Now, the events of history, you could certainly argue, are written by the victor, and they might not necessarily have happened in the way that they're documented. But when it comes to the look of the people, they're pretty much spot on by portraits, the way that they're described in text, and all these different manners. However, when you're dealing with a British society 500 years ago, you change everything when you insert a black woman into the picture, because it contextually changes everything. The way that she would be perceived, the way that her life would have been, how she got to the position she is. This isn't history. This is now certainly fallen into the realms of fantasy. Whether or not you want to say historical fantasy or not, it's certainly not history anymore. And believe it or not, I can't believe I'm going to say this, the people who created the show argued that one of the reasons why they changed the character of Anne Boleyn to black was so that younger people watching the TV show, which I doubt they did because the viewing figures were garbage for it, would be more easily able to identify with her victimhood because she was black. Now, if that doesn't say racism, I don't quite know what does. The rest of the cast members, or at least certain members of the cast members, were arguing that the decision to make Anne Boleyn black was because they had a colorblind casting process, i.e., they got the right person in their view for the role. However, when you're dealing with history, you need accuracy, not this wishy-washy, inclusive and diverse casting, which doesn't make sense and completely changes everything. Now, we all know that these casting choices are not made in good faith. They are ideologically driven. And then, of course, they have the mainstream media to support them, creating articles saying, hey, if you don't like this revisionist history, hey, if you don't like these ideological changes, then you're a racism. And we get them all the time, these gaslighting, straw-manny articles, and you can pretty much pull them up from any mainstream publication when it comes to a show that does something like this. Which leads us to Cleopatra, a new documentary? Not so much. From exclusive producer Jada Pinkett Smith, yes, Will Smith's wife, yes, Will Smith, who went up on stage on the Oscars and smacked Chris Rock around the face because he dared make a joke, a terrible 20-year joke about his wife, of course, who was in an open marriage with Will and had no problem jumping between the sheets of her son's best friend and then mocking her husband on television about how he felt about these things. Wow, what a great marriage they seem to have. It clearly hasn't had any effect on Will Smith's mental state whatsoever. So once again, we're dealt with revisionist history when it comes to Cleopatra because this show has been blackwashed. Now, if you know about Cleopatra, if you know anything about Egypt, about her reign and all this sort of stuff, you've probably got an idea about Mark Antony, you've probably got an idea about Julius Caesar and the Romans and the asp and the goat milk and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes to the race of Cleopatra, well, she wasn't black. She was from Greek Macedonian heritage, and so she would have a much more olive look to her skin. But of course, once people highlight this, and some Egyptians certainly have been highlighting this and very mad about the actual casting that has been put into the show, we once again hit by a barrage of, racism. But we're dealing with history here, and we're dealing with something that is meant to be a documentary. Well, that's at least according to Netflix. If you were, however, to pop over to the IMDb page about the project, you'll be greeted by a blurb that says, fictionalized Netflix story about Queen Cleopatra. However, they also have it under the subcategory of documentary. So which is it? Well, all that I know is that the main star of Cleopatra has taken to social media after a couple of people were not too happy about the casting, stressing, just FYI, this kind of behavior won't be tolerated on my account. You will be blocked without hesitation. Don't harass people, I agree. If you don't like the casting, don't watch the show. Now, where have we heard this type of behavior before?
And if you don't like my politics, don't buy my book. Problem solved.
Ah, yes, don't try and win your audience over. Go to war with them. It always works out really well for you. Now, I absolutely agree. Don't attack somebody based on the color of their skin. However, they have put themselves into an awkward situation because they are purposely and willingly creating a documentary that is actually revisionist history. It's inaccurate and it's purposely inaccurate. And therefore, they're creating the issue themselves. But then again, it also means that they can victimize themselves. And we're living in a victim culture. Now, here's the hilarity and here's the hypocrisy. Because all the people who are complaining about people wanting some historical accuracy are also complaining when you get accuracy. They're hypocritical. They're full of shit. Because Disney are doing another lazy live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch, a cartoon which is very much loved as far as I'm aware, and they're actually casting Hawaiian actresses as Hawaiian characters. But the people who are complaining about the people who want the historical accuracy are complaining that the accurate character, which is going to be in this live-action remake, is actually accurate. She's too light-skinned for them. Wait a minute. Hold up. Something ain't right. If you're okay with your revisionist history casting, if you're okay with turning a white character to a black character, if you're okay with turning a Macedonian Greek into a black character, you're not okay with a Hawaiian character playing a Hawaiian character? Now then, the people who want their historical accuracy don't care about the character. Anne Boleyn, whether she be a white woman, Cleopatra, Greek Macedonian descent, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, if those two characters were miscast, the outcry would be just as loud. Because it would be stupid to change the casting and the race of those characters if you wanted to create historically accurate pieces. But the people that we're dealing with, you can't reason with them. They don't have any logic. They will just go around this whole gaslighting journey. So let them make their movies. Let them make their series. Let them waste their money and let them continue to be complete and utter failures. Just like Anne Boleyn was. Just like this Cleopatra is going to be. And future projects. Don't you worry. I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye for now.